Pande lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajradara sumati munishas Shri Bhadra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munishasan Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Om Guru Vajra Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke Kudandagi Lu Pakyuke Sundandagi Na Pakyuke Tugandagi Tenyerme Chikto Chingi Lo Makyuke Kudandagi Lu Makyuke Sundandagi Na Makyuke tu Tenyerme Chikto Chingi Lo Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Io direi cominciamo facendo una breve meditazione insieme. Andremo a unire tre tecniche. Quindi abbiamo la parte del respiro.
We have
Faremo brevemente quella meditazione dei raggi di luce.
we'll do a brief meditation with the different techniques. If somebody's in there listening for English, you could please tell Lama that I cannot hear him. Maybe the microphone's not on.
Mi sentite adesso?
It's a
Mi sentite in traduzione?
little bit better, but not really.
Alzo il volume, I put the volume up.
Okay, thank you. Turning the volume up.
Ok?
Okay.
Ok, dicevo, una persona abbastanza vicina, adesso il cane non c'è qui adesso, che conosce il dottor Passan, ha avuto un incidente poco fa.
Il dottor
Conosce un
Pasang,
molto bravo di medicina.
a very, very good Tibetan doctor. He had an accident not long ago. He's in the hospital. So let's do this meditation also dedicated to him and his recovery. So as I was saying, when we do this practice,
In realtà
actually there's a preliminary part
dipende molto anche un po'
that depends
riferimento,
a lot
chiamiamo così,
on
spirituale,
our
fare con Gesù, si può fare
our religious or spiritual reference point. We can do this meditation with that which represents love and peace. So we visualize the so-called object of faith, and once we receive from our heart, which is a kind of mirror, then that goes out. So it's just 3 words to start. Like I said, this can be our reference point, can be Jesus or Buddha or loving light. So we sit down comfortably with our back straight but not tense. Our shoulders are relaxed. Our head is slightly forward. Our mouth is relaxed and our eyes are slightly closed, looking downwards. We allow ourselves to be present in this present moment. We allow ourselves to relax our mind, and to bring it where our body is. Simply we observe our breath. Without forcing our breathing, we observe the air that comes in and the air that goes out. If other thoughts arise of any kind, we don't block them, but at the same time, we try not to follow them. We simply, kindly, we tell ourselves, now's not the time for these thoughts, and we bring, with kindness, we bring our attention back to our breath. Inhale and exhale. We imagine our body like a body of light, transparent and light. At the center of our body, we have a central channel that starts from our forehead and goes down along our spinal cord to the basis of the spinal cord, and we have two side channels that come from our two nostrils and go side by side along the central channel, and then into the central channel about 3 fingers under our navel. We inhale and exhale. Within our channels, there are energetic blocks created by emotions like fear, resentment, anger, dissatisfaction, jealousy, and so forth. When we inhale from one nostril and we exhale from the other, we eliminate this energetic dirt, these energetic blocks within our channels. We make a Vajra fist and we do the 9-round breathing exercise. Inhale and exhale. In the space in front of us, we imagine what we call our object of faith, that which represents for us purity, wisdom, love, peace. It can be the embodiment of a being, a person, or a mere source of light. Light rays emanate and absorb into our heart, into our chest. Our heart filling up our entire body with light, melting our tensions and bringing us to a deep state of peace and joy. Inhale and exhale. In the space around us, the other beings appear. Our parents, our mother, our father, our siblings, our friends, our acquaintances, everyone we know, and also the beings that we don't actually know, to our sides, behind us, and even in front of us. Observing each one of them, we desire deeply that each one be happy. And for a moment, we allow ourselves to go beyond our own selfishness. For a moment, we allow ourselves to go beyond this obsession with self-gratification that we have. And looking at those around us, looking at them in their eyes, we say, your happiness is as important to me as my own. Your suffering is as important to me as my own. I deeply desire your happiness and desire you not to suffer. From our heart, light rays emanate that go to all beings around us, gradually bringing each one to a state of peace and joy, pacifying their conflicts, their tensions, their fears, their sufferings. They reach a deep state of peace and joy, and the light rays reabsorb into our heart as we rejoice for their well-being and joy. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. We visualize every being around us having reached a deep state of peace, and we ourselves, we're in a state of peace and joy. We allow ourselves to rest our mind in this state of peace and joy. Inhale and exhale. We keep our awareness on our breath, and little by little we open up our eyes and we move our hands. I remember that many of the most beautiful experiences that I've lived with other people, and the things that I've learned, the important things that I've learned, these have been moments spent in silence. We're used to being very conceptual and used to talking a lot, but being able to sit silently together is very special. Sometimes I want to come here and just stay silently together, but I think maybe it would seem a little strange. I remember one of my masters, Gelek Rinpoche was his name, and the first time he was invited to America, he was talking to another master of another tradition, and they each had a lot of experience. They had a lot of cultural and spiritual baggage. They were very respected, and they were great friends, and they shared a lot of respect between each other. And in the East, there's this usage, who is going to speak first, when you have a lot of respect for each other. And there was a big auditorium that was very full, and they were looking at each other, and they stayed in silence. And they were looking to each other, basically waiting, for inviting the other to begin. And it lasted for 45 minutes. And at the beginning, the people who were present were nervous, thinking, oh, we came here to listen to what they have to say, and they're not speaking. And then after a while, they started to relax too. And there was this a unique experience. And then at some point, one asked the other how he was. And then they began a conversation that was absolutely beautiful. So staying together with someone in silence is very intimate. And sometimes being able to stay together with presence, but in silence, is something very powerful and intimate. And I say this because many times I've been with someone who during a very difficult moment for them, and as doctors, this happens where you need to be with someone who is in great suffering or give the news of some kind of sickness. And from my small experience, very often it's not about saying the right thing, but it's about having the right attitude. And what you say is not the most important thing. What's important is being present with a sincere feeling of love, saying your well-being, your happiness is important to me. It's important to me, and I'm here. What I have to offer, I'm here present with that. And sometimes this can happen silently, in silence. Because when we're with someone, we're faced with someone who is having a lot of trouble, or in a very difficult situation, maybe someone who's even dying. I myself, I've gone to the hospital going to see people who are dying, and I've asked myself, well, what should I say? But it's not about saying the right thing. It's about being there. Sometimes I've gone to the doctor sometimes, and I've seen a doctor who looks at me in the eyes, and I feel that there's interest for my well-being. And I've also been to doctors who don't look at me, and they, from my perception, they transmitted. I had this sensation that they weren't caring for me. In one specific example, I went to this doctor for something that I had, an expert in that aspect, and I had this feeling that he really didn't care much, for my well-being or not. And I never followed what he told me to follow. I didn't take the medicine that he prescribed, because when we go to a doctor, it's an act of faith. We are entrusting ourselves to someone, and when someone comes to us and is expressing this act of faith and entrusting themselves to us, it's an enormous responsibility. We need to give value to that person. We do really respect this important choice. This person who is putting his suffering on the table, this person who's come to us is incredibly vulnerable and fragile. So it's very important when this happens. I mean, the first characteristic when I go to a doctor, even if I go to a lawyer, actually, the first trait that I need to see, I need to feel that that person is concerned with my well-being. Then let's see if he knows what he's talking about, or she knows what she's talking about, knows how to get to the right diagnosis. And of course, that's important, but that comes after. And this is an attitude that we can learn. Sometimes we say, oh, I don't have time to stay with the person, because the time that we have on our watch when we go to a clinic or it's very meager. There's not a lot. But from my own experience, when I'm with someone, even if it's 20 seconds, happens to me often at the end of each teaching, people come to ask me something. Very often the time available is very, very little. But in those seconds, in that minute, if I am there fully available for you, that is worth much more than an hour together where I'm distracted. I've seen in the hospital sometimes, for example, someone who goes by and just looks into your eyes and asks you, really, how are you? This is, I don't know, in your training, if there's something that talks about this, there's a part of your training, but I think that's one of the qualities that is extremely important, you know, for those who work as healthcare professionals. It's really important to be able to understand that responsibility that you have, and develop that 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 sense of being there. I mean, it can happen also that the person is in a great state of suffering. It could be quite aggressive, but this wouldn't justify, I think, from anyone. It's always important to maintain coherence with our own behavior towards others. And I wanted to talk about this today. As we finished the meditation, I would have stayed for a long time quietly, and I remembered that, you know, allowing ourselves a few seconds, a few moments of silence. Sometimes, you know, we can ask how the other person is really, and the other person really needs a moment of reflection, needs courage to answer sincerely. So you might need 2 or 3 minutes to allow that person to open up, and with that sincerity and with that courage. So that space is very important. And together with that, I just wanted to add an important question as a kind of conclusion to these days that we've spent together. As we said before, every situation is like a complex equation, and if we want to have a different result, what we can do is interact within that equation. We can't change everything. We're not we don't have that kind of power. There's a fundamental point. I mean, understanding conceptually, but not only, the limits of love and compassion. It doesn't matter how much I love you. It doesn't matter how important your happiness is for me. I am not able to make you happy. It doesn't matter how important your suffering is for me, and no matter how much I don't want you to suffer, I am not able to keep you from suffering. The most that anyone can do is interact and try to be a positive interdependence to go to that direction of diminishing suffering. We're a tool, a means that is an important part of this equation, but only a part. So I say this to take away a possible frustration, because when we see a lot of suffering, what can happen is, or we develop a great sense of impotence, or as a kind of self-defense, we become indifferent. Since I'm not able to help, actually, then I become indifferent to protect myself. I don't know if that's clear, but it's obvious that when I see something every day, after a while it doesn't have the same effect as the first time, for example. If once I've seen that terrible thing 20 times, it's much different than the effect that it has on us that first time. But it's important for us to maintain our coherence and remember that we all do our own part. And it's important to do it with a clean heart, really doing it by giving the best. And what I mean to say, when I have someone in front of me, I have someone in front of me. I don't know if that's clear. This is something that we need to cultivate, and we can't say, oh, I can't do that because I don't have enough time. I'm not saying that the person needs to tell you his life story. I'm saying if we're with someone for 5 minutes and within those 5 minutes we are there for that person and that we have the strength to look at that person in the eyes. I mean, depending on the culture, maybe even hugging. This is another, respecting the needs of the person, the culture, etc. Let's remember that we're just a small part of a very complex reality. And we do to the best of our ability. And together with this, there's something that I wanted to bring today. None of us, in my opinion, has the truth in his pocket. There isn't the right solution. As I said before, there are many, many solutions. But as I said at the beginning yesterday, often we think that one's own vehicle is the best, and we make divisions within science, or within our medical systems, allopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, Chinese medicine. Everything else is terrible. We need to take the best of each, which doesn't mean that something is wrong. It just means that there are characteristics in each one. Just invite you to have this openness. I don't know why, but I remember this friend who works in Spain in the emergency room. She said she was in the hospital, and at a certain point, a girl came. And this girl came to her in the emergency room, and she looked fine. You know, why are you here? She said, I'm here because I have appendicitis. Does it hurt you? No. Do you don't have any pain? No. Did you do an exam? No. Then, no. I did an exam with she was Chinese. I did an exam by video call with my Chinese doctor. I showed my tongue, and she said that I had appendicitis. And so she had a protocol to follow there in the emergency room. If you didn't have any symptom, you needed to be sent home. But she had also her intuition, and she felt, okay, there's something here. If that doctor told her this, so she broke her protocol and she had her draw blood, and nothing came out. She said, no, there must be something. So she asked her boss, a very long story, she had her do a TAC, and she had appendicitis, and certainly she would have come back in a few hours. She had been sent home. She would have come back a few hours later with broken, with an exploded appendix. And I don't mean to say that machines are not useful, or that protocols are not important, but we really need to learn how to listen to our own intuition. This is fundamental in any for any job, but in practicing medicine even more, because trusting more and more and entrusting ourselves more and more into machines and in tests, one loses sight, one loses this possibility of developing one's own intuition. With listening to ourselves. And this is something that really needs to be developed, to be cultivated, and to have the courage to go against the system every once in a while. Every once in a while, I think it should be done. I'm sorry if I don't mean to be breeding revolutionaries here, but I think it's important. Of course, it's important to follow, but then also be open to other possibilities. I knew there was a doctor who would often go to Nepal, and he treated the Ray. Manavajra was his name. He was very famous in Nepal. And he would receive people in a very small clinic, very small room, and he would sit on a chair, and next to him would be a wooden bench, and there would be just a curtain, and beyond the curtain there were other benches, so no privacy. They wanted to offer him a great clinic, but he didn't want. He wanted to continue like this, and he worked from like morning to night. I went to him several times, and once someone came with me, and this person came with me after, at the time I had a problem at my liver. It gave me something. I had a pain from behind my ear, and that ended all the way basically to my ring finger. I had been to the hospital, and they told me that I had some kind of pain, like problem in my cervical spine. He said, no, it has to do with your liver, because and he said that it's a problem of circulation. He gave me pills that tasted horribly, and it all passed. But the person who was with me, then he said to this person, and what about you? And the person, no, I just accompanied him. Oh, no, but don't you have this, that, and the other? Don't you feel this, that, and the other? Yes. How do you know that? I watch how you walked, how your mouth is as you speak. Our body in every moment is showing what's happening. If we have this ability to read it, I totally agree with all these diagnostic machines that exist now, but the human ability of watching and being able to transmit and understand what's happening. There's one doctor, who would watch and would receive patients from morning to the night. This was a Tibetan doctor, who was also the doctor of the Dalai Lama. And in some cases, he would receive a patient, maybe very serious patients. Those who couldn't come to him, he would have these people send their clothes, and from their clothes, the smell of their clothes, he was, unfortunately, he was so taken by seeing patients that he didn't look at himself, and he got him sick himself. So the lesson here too is we should, as we take care of others, we should never forget to take care of ourselves. And there's something fundamental here. We need to find this balance between self and others so that they become one thing. That when I'm taking care of others, I'm taking care of myself, and when I'm taking care of others, when I'm taking care of myself, I'm taking care of others. So it's never a sacrifice taking care of others. And when I'm taking care of myself, I go to the thermal baths, or I go to the beach. I'm doing it also for others, because if I'm not well, how can I take care of others? We should never forget our own well-being too. And we should always be open to learning. There's always something to learn, to increase, expand our horizon and our knowledge. Even 20 years ago, talking about acupuncture in the healthcare system seemed absolutely crazy. Instead, now it's really respected. So we learn a system, and we learn it well, and we open ourselves up to other systems, and we enrich our knowledge in taking the best of others. For those who are following this medical training, the most powerful machine that exists is our mind. If we learn how to read well all the signals, I mean, we're not able to do that ourselves. That's why we need doctors. But we need to have faith in ourselves that we can develop these abilities. Okay, there are these machines, there are protocols, there are tests, but we have an intelligence that we call intuition. That's much more subtle, that makes connection to things that go beyond our cognitive processes, and this is fundamental. So let's remember that from between now and in 10 years, not even, many jobs, even medical jobs, will be substituted by artificial intelligence. Even today, now there are many hospitals, that were the actual reading of the scans that are done by artificial intelligence, by computers. So, which means they trust a computer more than their own ability. And I don't think that we should be afraid of this, but we need to nourish the part of us that it cannot be substituted, this intuition, this more subtle part of ourselves that may not follow some kind of logical coherence. And meditation really helps this too. When we need silence, balance, to allow ourselves, to allow our senses, and to allow ourselves to be present. I thank you all for being here, in these 3 days. I'd like to say that this is a place that's open to all. You're all always welcome. There aren't any prerequisites or postrequisites. No, you come and you take what you find is beneficial. And if you see that there's something beneficial for you, you do your best to put it into practice. That's what I ask. And Lama Ganchen said to me many times, and I think that it's for all of us, but for those who are doctors, it's even more worthy. And he told me, as in my position as a Lama, he says, we are here to be of service. And not long ago, a friend came with her daughter, who's also studying medicine, and she was having a crisis because she needed to choose a specialization. Is it either oncology, general oncology, but she wanted to be a surgeon. But talking to other doctors, they were all saying,
guadagnare tanto,
no,
che guadagni meglio.
no, go to where you earn more.
La ragazza era un po' in shock.
And the girl was quite shocked, and she was upset.
Noi dobbiamo seguire
We need
quelle
to
che sono le nostre passioni,
follow our
capire
passions
che noi siamo a
and
servizio.
understand that we are of service.
Più
And the more we're able to offer with an open heart, the more we will receive.
no? Parlando di quello di cui io e gli
Talking,
altri hanno accennato,
talking about,
parlo per esempio dopamina, serotonina.
for example, when Rohir
Dopamina molto
touched
connessa
on
con il
dopamine and serotonin.
serotonina connessa con
Dopamine is connected much more to taking, and serotonin is connected to giving. Oxytocin
essere connesso con
is connected,
connettersi.
is about connection.
Se io voglio che
So
l'altra persona
if
sia più
I
suscettibile,
want someone to, if I want someone to be more susceptible, more open to what I have to say, then I need to generate that kind of oxytocin so that that person, that we connect. So selfishly speaking, it's better to be altruistic, even on this level. So if we have this self-esteem, we have this positive pride, saying, I'm here to help. Because one danger in all careers, and especially in the medical system, when we become a reference point for others, when one takes refuge in us, because when we go to the doctor, we are taking refuge in that person. That sometimes can become something that nourishes strongly our ego. And this is a very, very dangerous trap, because one begins with the objective to help others, and at a certain point, that objective has transformed into being the one who helps. I don't know if that difference is clear to you. And we need to protect ourselves from that. We need to really protect ourselves from this trap, from falling into this trap. And we're not here to point the finger. We need to look at ourselves. But it's a reality that exists. The other day, I was reading one of those white books on I think on Ayurvedic medicine, and sorry, what did he say? He said, how was it? No, he was saying among scientists, they're so attached to their image, and he was critical, but he was also like self-deprivating. It was making fun of himself too. So it's important to not fall into this trap. And we always go back to that question: why do I do what I do? I do it because I'm at the service of others. It's the service of society. I want to offer the best. Whether I'm a doctor or I'm a nurse or I'm working in a restaurant. So when we have that kind of balance, then we also feel more joy. Because another problem we have in today's world is this lack, this feeling that the meaning of life is lacking. I mean, why am I here? And when we're able to connect with this fact of being at the service of others, it fills us up in a very special way. And I didn't mean to talk about all of this, but it means a lot to me, and I'm happy to share it with you. Those of you who are already doctors, and those of you who are studying within the medical professions. mm,
ci sono i
w-
volti
w-
che prendono
when you
si chiama,
when you when you get your
ci
degree,
sono no, la etica,
do you
l'impegno
have
di vita, uno dice io prendo l'impegno di
do you have to
c'è un giuramento che viene fatto, no?
is there some kind of oath that you take when you become
Questo
doctors?
giuramento, io
This
l'ho letto
oath,
una volta, non me lo ricordo,
once I read it, I don't
si
remember it.
ripete ogni quanto?
How often do you repeat this oath?
Come? Dovrebbe essere ripetuto una volta al giorno,
You should repeat it every day
da se stessi.
to
Se
your
non ci tiene quello che
to,
si
to
dice,
yourselves. If you believe in what in what is said, what is promised.
perché le cose vanno ripetute? Noi nel
Why
buddismo, per
do we
esempio, quando
repeat
prendiamo
things? In
degli
Tibetan
impegni,
Buddhism, for example, when we take vows, it's
di
fundamental
ricordarselo
to
6 volte al giorno.
remember it possibly
Ripetere
6
queste
times a
se
day
no
by
almeno
repeating it, at
se
least
no
once a
al
day,
mattino,
or
al
3
mattino
times in the
per
morning and 3
fare
times
le
at
6
night,
cose
just
fatte al mattino,
to
prima
get
di
up to the
dormire.
6. We do 3 in the morning and 3 in the at night. Why do we repeat
No, tra
these
virgolette, ci
commitments that
dimentichiamo
we've taken? Because otherwise we
perché non
forget,
siamo consapevoli
and
di cui
we lack the awareness of what
per questo è
we
importante chiedersi perché voglio
already
fare quello che faccio
promised. So it's
e
important to ask
perché
ourselves,
mi
you know,
prendo dei voti, dei
why
compiti
am I
che
doing
devo
what I
onorare, come
do?
devo agire in
No,
quella
I'm taking a
realtà.
commitment on how I want to act and what I want to do. For example,
Utilizzare
we
una
can
parte del
use
vestito
a part of our
del
clothes,
medico,
the
dei
actual
segni
doctor's shirt, for example,
del
and
servizio
not for
che
your ego,
restituisce
but a sign of serving others. And you can use, your pen, the special pen, or a ring, but attribute that special meaning to this garment or this thing. Um, and be careful to not fall into any traps
potere,
of
sono trappole che
money
portano al
and
suicidio.
power,
E io
which
credo che gran parte dei problemi
are
sono proprio
very
nel
powerful.
sistema sanitario,
Because I believe that most of the
sono
problems that we have within our medical systems are caused by
questi la priorità riguadagno e
these
non al benessere
these
della persona.
to this, where we give priority
Troppe
to
volte vengono fatte le
the
scelte sulla base
the
di criteri
earnings and
economici,
not to the
soprattutto di maggior
people,
beneficio,
or to one's image and what's not of better of
quindi
greater benefit.
non è per stare qua a
I
puntare il dito
hope that I'm wrong. I mean, and it's not about
si dice
pointing a finger onto others, but I just recognize it as a possible trap.
quindi in conclusione,
To conclude,
parlando no, dell'oncologia,
talking about oncology,
nello studiare l'oncologia, nel
in
lavorare come medici in
studying
questo campo,
oncology, working as a doctor
si
in
sta
this
trattando,
field,
secondo me, una delle peggiori epidemie
or
che abbiamo
you're
nel
going
mondo.
into when you're facing one of the worst epidemics of our
Per alcuni dei
times.
termini,
I don't know if technically it can be called an
fatto sta
epidemic,
quando in un paese come
um,
l'Olanda il
but
50% della
a country
popolazione
like Holland has
sono uccisi o muoiono
50% of the population sooner or later diagnosed with a tumor.
una bocca senza parole.
I'm really
È qualcosa
speechless.
che riguarda
And this
non
is
un'epidemia,
something
il problema, il cancro
cancro from my
non è
ignorant
una
point of view.
malattia
It's not a
che contrasta,
sickness
è un
that in and of itself. It's a symptom of an unhealthy
un
lifestyle,
ambiente
of
insano,
an unhealthy environment,
insano,
an
di
unhealthy lifestyle, of pollution, so many things that have been created, things that just
quindi
don't
dobbiamo
work.
cercare di
We
andare
need
nella
to
direzione
go
opposta.
into the opposite
Questo è
direction.
molto bello, in mezzo a tutto
And
questo, far parte delle
and
soluzioni, non
in the middle of all this, it's really wonderful to be
scelta che
part of
fa
the
soluzione
solution.
non riguarda
And
solamente
being part of the solution
guardare a
doesn't
eliminare i sintomi,
it doesn't
ma
doesn't
far
mean
parte
eliminating symptoms,
quindi
but
ripeto,
actually eliminating the causes.
la malattia
So as we said before, the sickness is to know, the causes are to eliminate, the state of health is to be reached, and the treatment is to be followed. With this said, I'd like to conclude with a phrase that follows me everywhere. As I said this morning, at some point we are going to die, and when we don't know, really we don't know when. Today, unfortunately, I had this bad news just as I was finishing up here. Someone, a friend of ours, a doctor, just a short time ago, he said, I don't want to teach in the West anymore because I want to go back to Nepal, and I want to transmit my knowledge to a very few group of people, because here in the West I'm not able to do that. And a very short time ago he had a very serious accident. I don't know any more details, but just to say, we don't know, we never know what is going to happen today. I mean, much less tomorrow. So if there's something that we think is important, we need to do it right away. Our relationship with people, with friends, with our family, in our studies, whatever we choose to do, we give the best of ourselves, because really we don't know what we're going to find tomorrow. And this is a wonderful antidote to laziness. Chegu chegu sanginisu sam. This is about 400 years ago. This was said by Kundan Champelyang, and in English it would be, thinking about doing. 20 years have gone by. I wasn't able. 20 years have gone by. Oh, why didn't I do? 20 years have gone by. And like this, 60 years have gone by, and this is the biography of an empty life. Just add another 20 years, at the beginning, like not thinking about doing. At the time, for 60 years was already old age. So if there's something important that we want to do, we shouldn't wait. To the best of our abilities. This is very important. And so I ask you to do the best with awareness. And let's remember that we're all here to do the best for ourselves and also for others, to find the well-being of society, this world that we call our society. I mean, when we look around, there's so many problems, and sometimes when we see so many problems, we have this tendency to say, look how bad things are going. How can I manage to live, in the middle of all of this misery? But it's important to be part of the solution, not to be the solution, to be a part of the solution. Because if so many people get sick with tumors, for me it's a symptom of a sick society. So as we had with COVID, all these anti-COVID measures, our society needs some anti-cancer, anti-tumor measures. Being part of the solution means so much. And that's it. This last thing. someone asked me sometimes, so are you optimistic or pessimistic? And if we look at the world on a larger scale, how can you be optimistic? Let's say things as they are, right? I don't know if someone sees differently, but when I see an individual, how can I be pessimistic? In each one, I see an enormous potential. And luckily, the whole of everyone is made up of parts. And if I'm sure every person whose heart we've touched, whose life we've changed or betters, that surely leads to positive changes on a grander scale. So if you help someone here and that person helps someone there, so these small actions have huge power. And in my small way, I try to do my best to play my part. Thank you, really, from my heart. And like I said before, you're always welcome to come back. And I'm very happy that we did this conference here, because it's part of the project of the center, not just to focus on Buddhism, but on tools that help us have a healthier lifestyle. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a dedication. There are 3 verses that have been recited for about 1,500 years ago. They come from the text of Bodhisattva Charavattara from Shantideva. It's one of the dedications that I do really for the doctors, but actually also for those who are not doctors. But they'll do it first in Tibetan, and then I'll do an improvised translation. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every suffering and malady. May all beings live without any sickness. May medicines be full of strength, and may the prayers and the mantras of healing be chanted successfully, and may the spirits and microorganisms like viruses and bacteria be kind, with their minds imbued with pity. May beings everywhere who suffer torment in their minds or bodies have, by virtue of my merit, our merits, our positive energy, may they reach joy and happiness in boundless measure. Just a small piece of advice. When we begin something, in the morning, for example, when you go to study or go to work, generate motivation. At the end of the day, rejoice for what you have done. And in this way, in Buddhism, we do this all the time, and it really makes a difference. Thank you very much.